The case of Takahiro Shiraishi, the Twitter killer. Takahiro Shiraishi, infamously known as the Twitter killer, is one of Japan's most horrifying and notorious serial killers. Between August and October 2017, Shiraishi lured 9 victims, primarily young women, to his apartment in Zama, Kanagawa Prefecture, under the guise of offering them support for their suicidal thoughts. Once there, he murdered them, dismembered their bodies, and stored the remains in coolers and containers. His crimes, facilitated by social media, sent shockwaves through Japan and exposed vulnerabilities in the mental health and digital safety frameworks of the country. Background of Takahiro Shiraishi. Takahiro Shiraishi was born in October 1990 in Zama, Japan. His early life appeared relatively unremarkable, though he was described as a quiet and introverted individual with few close relationships. After finishing high school, Shiraishi worked as a scout in Kabukicho, Tokyo's red light district, where he recruited women for adult entertainment establishments. This job exposed him to the vulnerabilities of women facing financial and emotional struggles, insights he later exploited in his crimes. Shiraishi's personality grew darker over time, particularly after leaving his job in Kabukicho. Feeling disillusioned and directionless, he began turning to social media to interact with vulnerable individuals, a decision that would lead to his deadly killing spree. The murders. From August to October 2017, Shiraishi murdered 8 women and 1 man, all between the ages of 15 and 26. He specifically targeted individuals who had expressed suicidal thoughts on Twitter, using the platform to identify and communicate with potential victims. Modus operandi. 1. Luring victims. Shiraishi created a Twitter profile where he positioned himself as someone who could sympathize with those contemplating suicide. Using messages like, "Let's die together," he convinced victims to meet him at his apartment, offering support or companionship. 2. The murders. Once at his apartment, Shiraishi would incapacitate his victims before strangling them to death. He later claimed he murdered some victims to prevent them from changing their minds about their suicidal intentions, though this was widely regarded as an excuse. 3. Dismemberment and disposal. After killing his victims, Shiraishi dismembered their bodies using saws and tools. He stored body parts in coolers, storage boxes, and even plastic bags within his small, one-room apartment. The gruesome condition of his apartment was later described as overwhelming, with the stench of decomposing remains. Discovery and arrest. Shiraishi's killing spree ended in October 2017 when the brother of one of his victims, a 23-year-old woman, reported her missing. He had noticed troubling interactions on her Twitter account and traced them to Shiraishi. Police followed this lead and visited Shiraishi's apartment on October 31, 2017. What they found was horrifying. Human remains, including heads and bones, were scattered throughout the room, stored in various containers. Shiraishi was immediately arrested. During his arrest, Shiraishi confessed to the murders without hesitation, detailing his methods and motives. He admitted to targeting individuals who he believed were socially isolated or unlikely to be reported missing, making it easier to carry out his crimes undetected. Evidence. 1. Physical evidence. Police recovered multiple body parts, including skulls, bones, and other remains, stored in coolers and plastic containers. Tools used for dismemberment, such as saws and knives, were also found. 2. Digital evidence. Shiraishi's Twitter account contained messages to and from his victims, where he lured them with false promises of help or a suicide pact. This evidence directly linked him to the victims and their disappearances. 3. Confession. Shiraishi fully admitted to the murders, providing explicit details about how he carried them out and the reasons behind them. Court proceedings. Shiraishi's trial began in September 2020 at the Tokyo District Court. He faced charges for 9 counts of murder and for desecrating his victims' bodies. 1. Defense argument. His lawyers argued that the murders were consensual, as many of his victims had expressed suicidal intentions. They claimed Shiraishi was merely fulfilling their wishes to die. 2. Prosecution argument. The prosecution countered that Shiraishi had no intention of helping his victims die peacefully. Instead, he manipulated and exploited their vulnerabilities for personal gratification. They highlighted his complete lack of empathy and the calculated nature of his crimes. 3. Verdict and sentencing. On December 15, 2020, Shiraishi was found guilty on all charges. The court rejected the defense's argument of consensual killing, citing that the victims did not agree to being murdered or dismembered. Shiraishi was sentenced to death, and he accepted the sentence without appeal, stating he had no intention of fighting the verdict. Public reaction. The case generated widespread horror and outrage across Japan. Many were shocked by the ease with which Shiraishi exploited social media to carry out his crimes. The case also brought attention to mental health issues in Japan, particularly the lack of support for individuals experiencing suicidal thoughts. Impact on social media. 1. Twitter's response. Following the case, Twitter faced heavy criticism for allowing Shiraishi to use its platform to prey on vulnerable individuals. The company implemented stricter policies to monitor and remove content related to self-harm and suicide. 2. Mental health awareness. The case highlighted the need for better resources and support systems for individuals in distress, as well as the importance of recognizing and addressing online predation. Legacy and reflection. The Twitter killer case is a chilling reminder of how modern technology can be exploited for sinister purposes. Takahiro Shiraishi's calculated manipulation of vulnerable individuals, his lack of remorse, and the horrifying conditions in which he carried out his crimes have left an indelible mark on Japan. While Shiraishi remains on death row, the impact of his crimes continues to resonate, serving as a wake-up call about the intersection of mental health, social media, and criminal behavior.
Subscribe to the channel and press the bell button to watch more homicide cases around the world. Thank you and stay safe.